All right, without further ado, let's go ahead and bring in Ginger. I'm going to share the screen and do a quick intro, and I'll make it quick because I know we went over a little bit in time. So, okay, here we go. All right, so Ginger Gentile, she's done so many amazing things for this community and has really provided us with some very important tools. We've been talking about it. We talked about it yesterday. We've talked about it a little bit more this morning. I talked about it after my speech. So the Erasing Family documentary film is a huge tool for people to use in various forms. You know, you can use it to send to an alienated child. You can use it for a family that has experienced this. But the better part of it is that you don't have to send it to your child specifically. You can have someone else send it to your child, so it's not rejected right off the bat. So lots of different ways that you can use this film, and she has graciously provided that for all of us. For it was years and years of work that she put into it, blood, sweat, and tears, and it's a free resource. So you can definitely use that. Everybody that's looking for the CLEs and the continuing education units, you need to watch the Erasing Family film as part of those units. So you can watch that for free on Tubi and YouTube, and you can also go to erasingfamily.org and you can watch it right from there as well. She's also the director of Erasing Dad. That's a joint custody legislation that has been enacted in Argentina. So she was actively participating in that particular area. She's the founder of Reversing Parental Alienation Coaching, and she was named the Architect of Change by Maria Shriver. So for all the work that she's been doing, she is the Erased Child Whisperer, and she's been featured on numerous forms of media, including NBC, CBS, The Atlantic. The list goes on there. So Ginger, I'm going to go ahead and pass the ball over to you to continue on.
Yeah. Thank you, Dawn. Just remind me how long do I have for the presentation? Because I'm fine cutting it shorter.
We have a little wiggle room. So
Okay.
there is a 10-minute intermission between you and the next one. So if you need a little, couple 5 minutes
so
out.
What's the total? 30 minutes, 45 minutes?
I gave you 60 if
60.
you need it.
Okay, perfect.
Yep.
Okay.
And then we can have Q&A with whatever you have left over.
So let me see if I can share. Perfect. Thank you so much. So one thing about when I do these talks is I love getting questions. So if anyone from the panel or anyone from the audience has a question at any time, feel free to send that to the speakers who will get that to me. And I'm totally okay with taking questions as I go, but we will have tons of time for Q&A at the end. So this is Parental Alienation from a Child's Point of View, Valuable Lessons for Parents. I'm the presenter. I'm the director of the documentaries Erasing Dad, Borrando Papás in Spanish, but has English subtitles, and Erasing Family. And these two films really impacted my journey because I never thought I would do anything about this subject. This subject chose me. And the first one I did, Erasing Dad, which again is free on YouTube, it's told from actually the dad's point of view. And it is like a true crime documentary. Major trigger warnings I have to give. There are scenes of violence, of murder, of sexual assault in the film. And it's very much the dads are the victims and the kids we don't even see. Because when I made the film, there was no way for me to get in touch with the kids. And then something interesting happened. Erasing Dad came out in 2014. You can probably guess what happened. Social media. And all of a sudden, and this was in kind of the early days of social media, so this was even before, TikTok and Instagram, but children were posting videos. And by children, I mean as young as 7. I can't see my sibling because the courts won't let us. The other parent won't let us. I can't see my dad. Judge, please change your court order. These heart-wrenching videos. And when I made Erasing Family, I was like, I can actually talk to the kids involved. So that really changed my perspective on this topic. Was when I began to see it from the children's point of view, I began to see that not everything was so black and white. And this idea that alienated parents have done nothing wrong, the alienator is evil, the courts are to blame, and the kids are just somewhere out there, right? Like a prize to be had. it really began to change me. And also, between making a racing dad and a racing family, I realized I was an alienated kid. And this is how deep it can go. I spent making a racing dad, I want to say about 4 years. I interviewed every expert on alienation who I could talk to. In Argentina, that's where I was living at the time. If you're wondering why I was in Argentina, watch a racing family, I explained what made me go there. And it never dawned on me that this was a personal story. And my husband was an alienated dad. And it just never dawned on me because I was just the child of a father who abandoned me and a very rough divorce. So I think that's how deep this can go for children and why reaching out to them with a label of alienation might not be helpful. So I want to give a warning and ask a question. So the first warning is that I have been accused as a coach of being harsh. And my presentation will hold no bounds. I do not censor myself when telling parents or children or professionals what they need to do. Some people love that because it's efficient. And I get hate mail from parents. I get about 3 to 5 messages or emails per day saying how much they hate me. So maybe from this presentation, we can up that to 10. But the reason why is because parents are victims, children are victims, but in some cosmic sense, we're all victims and we're all perpetrators. So I don't give certificates of victimhood. And the question I want to ask, and Dawn, if you maybe you can look and see see what people answer. For the people who are here mainly as alienated children or abducted children or child victims, are you also alienated parents? And for the parents who are listening, were you an alienated child or suffered something similar, like a parent who died or were abandoned by a child or experienced incredible domestic violence? These are all related. And I was working with a mom yesterday who was like, well, I wasn't alienated as a kid, but my mother never knew her father growing up, and I don't even know his name. I was like, well, that might not be alienation, but that's definitely a pattern here. So if people just want to take a second, I just want to just read the room and get if people want to answer that question. I'm not going to call out names, so if someone wants to give that to Dawn.
I'm looking. I know that we do have one of us that is both an alienated child and a targeted parent.
Mm-hmm.
I think she's still here. Where are you? There you are. Yeah, that would be Brandy.
Yeah.
Alienated child only for me.
I'm a child, a stepmother. My own son was trafficked away from me, and I'm an alienated aunt.
Anyone else?
I don't see anything from the audience.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. Grandparent or you know, you may want to include that or parent. Yes.
Okay.
Well,
this is something to think about. Is my screen, am I sharing my screen or not yet?
Yes, you are. We do have one other anonymous saying alienated parent and daughter on OD, a sex offender maybe could be a silver bullet. I'm not sure I understood.
Okay, so I'm back to my screen share. So Dawn, if someone says anything, you just jump in and interrupt, okay? Because now I want to be dynamic. So you just interrupt because I can't see the chat very well.
I got it. Yep, I gotcha.
So
there is an anonymous domestic violence.
Yeah, I think I read that one. Oh, another one. Alienated parent family with narcissistic abuse trauma is another one. So far, that's it.
So this group that's listening, there's a lot of people who recognize this, and sometimes we don't want to recognize this, but the importance of getting the alienation to stop is to free children and future generations from being alienated and abducted. Because if we as children don't heal, if parents don't heal, and it's the parent's responsibility, not the child's, to heal this situation, this will go on and on and on. 7 generations. A trauma can perpetuate in a family system.
I think, Brandy, did you want to add something to that?
Yeah, my situation
Don't
was
worry.
it wasn't generational for me because my husband was not alienated, but he became the alienator. I was brought up alienated, but I was not the alienator.
So you married the alien. You married who alienated you?
I literally married. My mother weaponized me and conditioned me.
So we marry our mothers.
I remarried my mother. Yes.
Yeah. Now, what I would find interesting is it's probable that there was some trauma on your husband's side that maybe is not exactly alienation, but something that led him to that. What I have found is people from the United States in general are often very disconnected from their family stories. It's something culture that we have a very hard time seeing and a resistance to, but something to think about. But I would say that I've only seen this be a family pattern in 95% of the people I work with.
Okay.
So for this presentation, I'm asking the parents who are listening to see me as your child just for this presentation. After the presentation is over, you're free to go back, hating me, disliking me, sending me messages saying that you understand why my dad was alienated from me because you also wouldn't want to talk to a child as awful as me. I'm joking, but these are the things I get because this is a trauma response. And I always say, I don't care. I have thick skin. This isn't helpful if you want to reunite. Okay. So my story as a child is what I want to point out before I move forward is that compared to a lot of other stories that you're going to hear in this conference and in the wonderful book that Dawn edited and a lot of people contributed to with blood, sweat, and tears, is my story is almost non-interesting. My parents got divorced when I was 13. Before they got divorced, there was constant fighting in the house. And through the divorce process, they both decided to stay in the house and fight constantly. When the divorce finally happened, I felt relief, only to discover that things got worse after the divorce. I'm sure some of you listening recognize this. You think the divorce things will settle down, and for years, even decades, the fighting continues and even gets more weaponized. And both of my parents badmouthed the other person, but I was more attached to my mother. I didn't know this until I was in my 30s. My dad actually had 50-50 custody. I had no idea. And then he decided to give it up. Why? After the divorce, my mom accused him of domestic violence. He went to a lawyer and said, we can fight this. It's going to cost you $100,000 and you'll lose. So that's when my dad decided to walk away. And what I noticed with my journey to reunite with my dad as an adult, my dad never had the skills to deal with my pain and my trauma. And if I ever showed up with an emotion, it made him very uneasy. And he would return that emotion to me. So if I said, I hate you, Dad, he would say, I hate you too. What this looked like, and everyone has a different response to similar stimulus, is I was always on the outside very successful, valedictorian of high school, went to an Ivy League school, had a very interesting career. But through that, there was constant drug use, alcohol use, an inability to form long-lasting relationships that were healthy, feeling alone and isolated, depression, suicidal tendencies, you name it. But on the outside, everything was okay. And so my lesson for why I'm sharing this is to say that even in a situation that wasn't that bad, of an alienation story, right? I was never abducted. I always knew where my dad was. He had my phone number. I had his phone number. I saw him once in a while. The trauma can be very severe. And one story that sums it up is that when my parents would fight so much, one day I asked my mom, why do you and daddy fight so much? And she said, we fight so much because we love each other. You can guess who I married. You can just, if you know anything about psychology, you can guess what my husband was like, right? Now, of course, if you're healed, you would say, wow, dad and I, we don't know how to express our emotions. We came from very difficult childhoods, so we only know to express ourselves through 2-hour-long shouting matches, right? That wake you up in the middle of the night. But instead of that, she says, oh, that's the more you yell, the more it just means you love, your love is big. It's so big, it can't be contained. And I entered the alienation world, the world of high conflict divorce as a filmmaker, not to heal my own trauma. As I said in the beginning, I didn't know how that I was impacted by this, really. I met a man, I fell in love, and the first thing he tells me, he's like, I'm very depressed. I haven't seen my daughter in 6 years. And like a lot of people, if you're an alienated parent, you've experienced this. I said, well, let's go down to the courthouse. There must be some clerical error. There must be some mistake with the judge, some paperwork that wasn't filed. And I entered a world of parents who had orders to see their children. My now ex-husband always had an order to see his daughter. It wasn't being enforced and no one cared. And there was a systematic trend in Argentina at the time, because I met my husband in Argentina, and I moved to Argentina to get away from my family, because it's the furthest I could get away from them, literally. If you look at a map, this is about as far south as you can go. There was a systematic campaign to say that fathers weren't needed in the household, that only a mother was needed, and that fathers could potentially be violent. So it's kind of better if they're not in the house. Just erase them, just remove them. And there would be campaigns like the most dangerous place for a child is their own home because of the father. So that was kind of the rhetoric. People themselves did not accept this rhetoric, but that was what the social work psychology complex was kind of telling people in pop culture. And they were also, the laws backed it up, custody automatically went to the mother. And what I learned making Erasing Dad was how traumatic it is for the fathers, because I was only talking to fathers who were being alienated, how no one seemed to care. And in fact, if they said anything, they would get abused by society. Toughen up, you're a man. Men don't cry, men don't show emotions. Why are you so interested in your kids? Why don't you just have more kids? Just forget about your kids. Just find another woman and have more children with them. And that the help that was available to dads at that time was often like, you have to just go back to court. You have to keep going back to court. That's the only way. But the court system basically said, we don't care that you don't see your kids. So it's like the only solution was a long legal process that doesn't work. Or you give up. And after I made Erasing Dad, so Erasing Dad had a very big impact in Argentina. When it came out, it was the most talked about film in Argentina, because it was censored. It was the first film censored in many years in Argentina. And people were often surprised when I talked about this, because they're like, why would they care about a divorce film, right? Like, who cares? It's not police violence. It's not, war. It's not the military. People were very surprised, and it was censored by judicial order. It was illegal to show it in Argentine territory. YouTube took it down. We couldn't have a proper premiere. Everyone talked about it. People started to talk about alienation, something that was very taboo, because journalists don't like to see censored movies. So from a publicity standpoint, it was very stressful, but it was great for the film. And they changed the laws after this to take out any gender bias in the laws, and to allow for the option of joint custody. Before the film came out, there was no such thing as joint custody. It was only sole custody. And I decided to leave Argentina in part because the film was censored. I didn't really feel safe at that moment there. And I went back to the US. I'm like, I have to make a follow-up. And I decided to call this film Erasing Family. And the first thing I discovered when I came back to the US were how many mothers were being alienated. I don't want to say statistically if it's equal or more mothers or more fathers. Statistically, it's probably more dads, but there are more than enough mothers that I was like, this is a very interesting as a family dynamic, as a legal dynamic. And the other thing was that all these children were beginning to talk about it on social media. So the whole way I approached the subject changed significantly. And what I also discovered making Erasing Family is I interviewed tons of families. So in the film, and we'll see one of the protagonists later, Ashlynn, who's going to be speaking at this conference, which I'm very excited for. All of the kids, you know, who I talked to and all their parents were reunited, I saw that they had a very similar journey. And it took me like 2 years to put this journey into a step-by-step process. But after Erasing Family came out, and that was, I think, in 2020, all of these parents began to contact me, asking me for help on their case. And at first I was like, no, I don't do that. I'm a filmmaker. I was actually working in another movie at the time, nothing to do with this subject. I was like, I'm not a coach. I'm not a therapist. And like, you should talk to somebody else. And parents insisted so much, I began to help parents. And now I do that full time with a team of coaches and support staff. So my career totally changed. I gave up movie making to help parents. And what I saw was that everybody who reunites follows the same steps in this order. And the other thing that I saw is that parents who are alienated by definition are traumatized. And as Andrew said, you need to get out of the trauma response in order for the healing to begin. But we also have to recognize that this is highly traumatic. And when I work with parents about finding their happiness, it's like, it is normal that you are sad, depressed, angry, hopeless that you can't see your kids. If you were okay, that's unhealthy. Like if a parent was like, oh, I can't see my kids, whatevs, I'm gonna like do something else. I'm gonna, get my nails done. That would be really weird. Now, the trick is to not let this trauma define your life, because you as a parent have a right to be happy. You have to show your child how to heal. You have to mirror this healing, because you can't tell them to heal if you yourself are not healed. And the way I define parental alienation is conditional love. I will love you. I will give you resources if you reject the other parent, if you reject the other parent's family. It's love with a condition. And we need to remember that for children, from young children to teenagers, but especially young children, parental love is survival. If they go against a parent, they will die. Literally. Evolutionary speaking, a young child cannot survive on their own. So if one parent says, for me to give you love, which also to the child is shelter, food, education, clothing, you need to do something, they're going to do it. And from an evolutionary perspective, we have to believe what our parents say. And Dr. Gabor Mate, who's an expert on trauma, says this very succinctly. It is scarier for a child to say that their parent is unhealthy than to blame themselves. So mom yells at me because I'm not perfect, because I didn't clean properly. That's safer for a child than to say, well, mom has a lot of trauma, or mom is unhealed, or mom doesn't know how to mom very well. That's very scary. It's easier to say it's all my fault, right? This is the stereotype of divorced children saying, I'll be good if you don't get a divorce, right? They blame themselves. This is a normal evolutionary response. But the cure for this is unconditional love. And that's showing up with an abundance of love, not only for your child, but for yourself and for everyone in this system. And that includes the alienator. And a lot of people say, well, I can't forgive my alienator. Or they'll say, well, I don't want my alienator to walk all over me. Unconditional love has nothing to do with forgiveness. I come from a religious tradition that does not require you to forgive anybody. That's Judaism. You don't have to forgive anybody who doesn't ask for forgiveness and make amends. It's up to, if you want to forgive someone, great. If you don't want to, it's not needed. But showing up with just, I want this person to be happy. I want this person to be healed. I understand that they're coming from an unhealed trauma response can really be a game changer. And also, oh, my child is yelling at me. They don't respond to my messages. It's not that they're an ungrateful child. They have been traumatized too. And Andrew, who's giving these great historical analogies, what is an analogy that I love to use with unconditional love? Let's go big. Gandhi. Gandhi said to the British, and I think we forget at the time, because Gandhi now is this, pop figure. Everyone knows who Gandhi is, and we love Gandhi. At the time, people thought he was nuts. People thought his clothing was despicable. They made fun of him a lot. Even in like American newspapers, there'd be cartoons being like, who is this crazy person? And he said to the British, sooner or later, but probably sooner, you're going to walk out of India. And the British were like, we're the most powerful military might in the world. And Gandhi said, but the time will come when you're going to walk out of here. And Gandhi did not give in to the British. He did not teach people obeying the British. In fact, what he did was a lot of resistance that resulted in a lot of violence towards him, but he always did it with love. So I said, I love you, British oppressors, but now you got to leave. And we're going to make our own salt. That's what I mean by unconditional love for the alienator, not doing whatever they say. Children's love is based on survival. And this is one really gets a lot of parents. Children will not reunite with an alienated parent if there's ongoing conflict. One, they've already aligned with the alienated parent. So if there's conflict going on between two parents, court battles, also just bad-mouthing, energetic bad-mouthing. I talk to a lot of parents who will spend a lot of time complaining about the other person. And when I point this out, they'll say, well, I never tell my child that. I'm like, yeah, but your energy is blaming the other parent, right? Children will feel that and they cannot reunite because they're stuck in this stasis. They're stuck in this situation. So what would cause them to change? It is not them knowing the truth. It is not them seeing the flaws of the alienator, which they know because they live with them. It's being lured in by unconditional love and feeling the peace to go between both parents. Now, the good news is you don't have to become friends with the alienator. You don't have to even talk to the alienator to diminish the conflict and find peace. It is totally possible to heal a family system without the interaction of other people. So from the trauma, parents lose their ability to make decisions. And they lose parental authority, and children will always reject weak parents because, again, love is survival. So parents will often say, why do they want to be with the abusive parent? Because the abusive parent is strong and can protect them. You are weak and can't protect them. In fact, the courts have verified that they're not doing anything either. Why would if love equals survival, why would I align myself with the weak parent? I'm going to align myself with the strong parent who can protect me. This is a very hard pill for a lot of alienated parents to swallow, but children will never identify with a weak parent. And but this is something that's also under control that parents have, is to make themselves stronger. And what I mean by when parents lose the ability to make decisions, there's so many parents I work with, they will fret over how to write a text message, how to write an email. Should I say good morning or good afternoon? Should I put 2 heart emojis or 1 heart emojis? They lose their decision-making authority, and therefore they lose their parental authority. Now, this is a trauma response, so this is to be expected, and no one should feel blame or bad or blame themselves or feel bad for this. But this will push the children away. Many parents facing parental alienation feel lost and they feel hopeless. They don't have a map to follow, they don't have a plan, and also they think that this will never change and their only choice is to give up. Because what society presents is you go to court, you spend a lot of money, and it may work or may not work. Most likely it won't work, or you give up. And what we teach is that there is a third way, a middle way, which is a Buddhist principle of you don't starve yourself, but you don't overeat. You eat the right amount to keep your body healthy. So there's a way to actively prepare for reunification, to reach out in a new way, to show up in a new way that does not involve court and doesn't involve pretending to forget about your children, which is impossible. So for those parents who are here, I want to lead you through a visualization exercise. For the children who are listening, instead of visualizing your alienated child, if you don't have one or if you don't have children, I would suggest you use your inner child at the age when this all started. So for Dawn, that might be a 3-year-old. For someone else like me, that might be a 13-year-old. And we often talk about inner child work, and I've been doing a lot of work, and my coaches and therapists are like, you need to heal your inner teenager. Your inner child's fine. It's your inner teenager that needs healing. So let's not think that it has to, that once we're 7 or 8, that this, we don't have an inner child. This is your inner youngster, right? So if you are an alienated parent, I want you to visualize your alienated children or child. If you are a child, visualize yourself at the age that this started. Again, if you feel open to this, if this is too much for you, do not do this exercise, okay? So if you have eyeglasses on, take them off. Close your eyes. Put your feet firmly on the ground. Feel this beautiful connection with Mother Earth. And we're going to take in a few deep breaths together. Deep breath in. Deep breath out. Deep breath in. Deep breath out. Deep breath in. Deep breath out. I'm going to count you down from 10 to 1. With each number I say, you'll become more and more relaxed, but you're always in complete control. You can leave this relaxed state at any time just by opening your eyes. But if you choose to stay in this relaxed state, any noise or distraction that enters from this moment on will just relax you even more. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Relaxing your face, relaxing your neck, relaxing your head, relaxing your shoulders, relaxing your back, relaxing your spine, relaxing your torso, relaxing your arms, relaxing your hands, relaxing your pelvis, relaxing your sit bones, relaxing your legs, relaxing your feet, feeling totally relaxed and perfectly safe in this present moment. Letting all thoughts that you don't need right now, leaving your mind, they'll be there when you get back. And now with me, I want you to visualize and feel as if you're on a beautiful beach, any beach that you want, and the sun is beating down on you and it's perfect. It's not too hot. It's not too cold. You feel the sand beneath your feet. You hear the waves crashing. And as you're walking, you feel the sand crunching. Maybe you hear birds in the distance. And as you're walking down this beautiful beach, in the distance, you see a figure. This figure to you is your inner child at the age the alienation started, or if you're an alienated parent, your actual child or children. And when you see this child or children, Their eyes light up. They're so happy to see you. And they run over and they give you a big, beautiful hug. Doesn't that feel wonderful? You can smell their hair. You can feel how happy they are to see you. And I want you to memorize this feeling. You're allowed to feel this feeling at any time. You can always go back to this feeling. You can always come back to this exercise. And as you're hugging your child, it feels so good to hug them. So good. Or you're hugging your inner child or your inner teenager, saying, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. I'm here now. I'm here now. I can give you everything you need. And as the hug ends, I want you to look at your child or your inner child or your inner teenager or your children and ask them from your heart. Let's take in a deep breath in, deep breath out. Very important. If you need to put your hand over your heart, you're going to ask them from your heart, not from your brain. Your brain is turned off right now. We only feel heart to heart. Ask your child, your inner teenager, what do you need from me right now? Maybe they say nothing. That's okay. Just ask again, what do you need from me right now? Ah, it's okay to yawn. Means there's an energy shift. Beautiful. If they tell you anything, say, if they didn't say anything, or if they said something, say, thank you for letting me know. And if they let you know anything, say, anything else? Beautiful. And now I want you to imagine walking down the beach with your inner child, your inner teenager, or your children or child who's alienated, laughing, feeling happy together. And I'm going to count you out to 5. When I say 5, you're going to wake up to a new reality where healing is easier and quicker than before. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, wide awake. It is totally normal if you are, so for sometimes if we're doing this with our inner child, we might feel nothing. When I started to do this work, I was angry at my inner child. I actually told her to go F herself and that I wasn't going to take care of her. You know, I was like, it's not my fault that mommy and daddy messed up so much. You're on your own, kid. So this can be a process. There can be a lot of resistance. For the alienated parents, it is very common not to feel anything, not to hear anything from your kid. It's also very common to hear, I need space. I've also had parents that have gotten a laundry list of things that they need to do. Does anybody want to share right now any reaction that they had from this exercise? From the people who are listening, or also from the people in the group? If you want to drop in the chat, or Dawn, if you want to share that, that would be lovely.
Well, can I just say thank you for bringing me to the beach?
Oh, of course, yeah.
I really enjoyed that because and maybe you or a doctor could explain a little bit more, because since I'm not a doctor, I don't want to speak out of context, but I know that I've read that if you visualize, and that's why triggers could feel so real even if you're in recovery, you really, your body sometimes doesn't know the difference, something to that effect. And I'll give it back to you, but thank you for bringing me to the beach, by the way.
Of course, yeah. So we're always in a calm place when we do this, because if we say, now imagine you're back in your ex's house and he's throwing a cup at you and your kid, like that's too much. So we're in a happy place. We're imagining we're healed. So when we haven't healed yet, and healing is a process, or we're still alienated, if we can begin to imagine and to practice that feeling, one, everything is, vibration. So we attract that back. So that's why I always say, instead of alienated parents, my soon to be reunited parents. Because if someone says, because if you say it's been 1,000 days since I've been alienated, that's very sad. But if you say, I'm in the process of reuniting, I'm in the process of healing. I'll give you a small example. I used to suffer from anxiety, and I was diagnosed, and I used to go around saying I suffer from generalized anxiety disorder. The moment I started to say, Sometimes I have anxious thoughts, but every day they're less. My anxiety began to heal. Because when we go into a label, and that's why Dawn was brilliant by saying this is the Thrivers conference, survivors. It's okay to say I was a victim, but now I'm a survivor. But what I have found is so many parents, they cannot talk to their children. But we can talk to people dead or alive energetically. So this is an exercise. And sometimes, parents will say, oh, my kids said they need space. Oh, okay. My kids need me healthy. My kids need me to show up peacefully. My kids need me to stop bugging them. My kids need me to go to the gym. My kids need me to, and they get this list from their child, even though there's no relationship with their child. Is there anything else? Because I want to get through the rest of the presentation, but I'd love any people want to drop in the chat or say anything that came up for them.
Hi, Ginger. We only have probably about 10 minutes left.
Yeah.
So I just want to give you your 10
Sure.
minutes.
Of course. So an anonymous attendee said, attention, validation, love, nurture, freedom, safety, validation, understanding, friends, love, and more love. Beautiful. That is all stuff you can work on before you see your children that will help attract them back. So what I think is just very important here is we can do this exercise as much as we want. We can also ask our inner child what we need if we're Thrivers. They might need play. And for so many parents, they learn so much about alienation. We need to take a break from this and play and do something fun, especially for all of us survivors. We probably have never had a chance to really play. Maybe we need a finger paint this weekend. So to go back to the presentation, I'm going to speed through it a little because I want to make sure that we have time for questions and answers. So I also encourage everyone to look around at all the people who have healed, all the people who've been through trauma, people like Nelson Mandela who were in prison for 26 years, and who then led a country, but also people who like the Thrivers here. So for you parents listening, your child might become the next coach, therapist, lawyer, politician who changes this. They might become a light worker. So because so many parents say, my child must be traumatized. They probably are, but also wish that your child is the least traumatized alienation victim ever. So I created the Revive method. I'm going to do this in 1 minute. It's a whole method that I found every parent who reunites with their child follows. Releasing the trauma response. If you are traumatized, you cannot think clearly, you cannot be strategic. You'll never be 100% cured, but you can start to notice your triggers and like, oh, I'm being triggered, and then calm yourself down. And with each step, there's like more steps that go to this, right? So I'm just giving you the overview of what I've seen every parent that reunites follows. And if you skip a step, this does not work. Embrace emotional healing, allowing fun back in your life, letting stuff go, getting out back into nature, adopting a healthy lifestyle. B, verify root causes of alienation. I've been surprised when I teach this. I always thought people would get like very upset with this. People love this. It's one, why is your alienator alienating? What are they motivated by? We can use that to get the alienation to stop. And people often like, you can't get alienation to stop. You can get it to stop. My ex is crazy. Great. Crazy is predictable. My ex is a narcissist. Even better. Tell them how great they are. I've had so many parents who are now friends with their alienators and can talk to them because they're just like, oh, yeah, I'm so impressed by your opinion. You're so smart. Thank you so much for responding to my email. There are more extreme cases, but this will understand what their motivation is so we can use it strategically. Why your kid doesn't want to talk to you? What's the grain of truth there? Why did you marry an alienator? What do you have to heal from your family history? Or if someone says, well, I was just bamboozled by a narcissist, why are you so naive? Like I said before, 7 cycles of family trauma. This can go on for 7 generations. So if we don't stop this, if we don't identify our family patterns, we're doomed to repeat this. Who is the alienator? People don't like to hear this. A lot of times the alienator is your child 20 years from now. Who are you? You are the alienated child. That is why it's so important for parents to break this cycle and to not give up. Because if not, your child, and we've seen there's statistics on that, alienated children have a 50% chance of becoming alienators or alienated. Maybe that statistic isn't totally correct, but we see this. We see these patterns. Improve communication skills. And there are scripts you can use, there are templates you can use, but they will not work if you are not healed. And also, this says in the method, improve communication skills and practice it. It does not say how to text my kid. Vitalize your life to attract kids back. As Dawn says, you can become a magnet that repels or attracts. Then E is execute a reunification strategy that works. Everybody wants to start here. All the parents who work with me, they say, how do I text my kid? How do I do this? I'm like, whoa, we're on week 1. If you skip the steps, they do not work. And now here's the beautiful secret. Templates will work great and text to send if you have done the other healing steps. They will not work if you haven't, but also if you've healed, you might reach out and your text might be like, I might be like, that's not a great text. It'll work because the energy is different. And even better, so many of the parents I've worked with adult kids is the kid that reaches out. And they're always like, how is that possible? I'm totally blocked. When the energy changes, amazing miracles happen. You don't even have to do the outreach. They'll find you. And there's a whole way to get them to find you. And to always, gather information, as Andrew was saying before, and ask, what is the best and worst case scenario? So many parents go back to court and I'm like, did you ask your lawyer what your chance of winning is? No. Does the law allow you to put this motion in? No. Can you ask for this type of therapy? No. What would happen? What's the worst case scenario if you showed up at your kid's school? Can you show up at your kid's school? Do they allow volunteers? Gather information before making a decision. So that's Revive method. And the result is an empowered parent who's empowered to make decisions, reclaim their parental authority. A lot of the parents I work with have lost weight. They've stopped drinking. They now have friends. They begin dating again. They begin making more money. And that is all important because I always say, what if your kid called you up and said, Mom, Dad kicked me out of the house. I'm stranded on the roadside. Can you give me $500 for gas? You better have that $500 ready. So this is all part of the package. So you become as powerful, as strong, as brilliant as the alienator. Because guess what? A lot of narcissists are freaking fun. And then you're over there crying, broke. Watch Erasing Family and look at why Brian chooses Karen over his loving mother. And I was like, but Karen's such a narcissist. She was such a fun narcissist, man. Okay. So results is getting alienation to stop. I can't go into success stories, but I have so many parents who are now on good terms with their alienator. Of course, if you're the victim of abuse from your alienator, the solution might be never to talk to them again. So this is where individualized strategy comes in place. And this is why I don't, coach just with like a little information. So I know we're out of time. Kids want to see you happy and healthy. I don't have time for the professionals, but I will say that what's wonderful about these in communication skills and relationship skills and how to deal with abuse in general is that even if someone is not alienated, these skills can be used with a boss, with coworkers. Improving your communication skills you can use even if you've never been alienated. So I'll just end here. And I know we have 2 minutes left for questions.
Yeah, we
so
do.
I will just end. Yeah, so I just want to end on the last screen. Okay. So people get my contact information. So this is the other book I did with Dawn. The Erasing Family. You go to erasingfamily.org with all the links. You can embed it. You can show it for free. You can invite 50 people over and show it. And this is my contact. I do not coach over email. I also have a rule, and Andrew, and like when I work with my kid coaches, because all the coaches I work with are ex-alienated kids and parents who are reunited. If someone contacts them outside of the program, they tell me and I tell them, I'll kick you out of the program, because boundaries are so important for us as survivors of this, to have firm boundaries. So that is, by doing the steps, you will see a change. But just giving advice, and I will say very quickly, we don't have time, but I had a very bad incident where after that, I'm like, I'm never coaching over email again, because if you don't know the whole story, you can give people advice that's actually worse. So this is if people want to contact with me about press, speaking inquiries, or to learn about how I work, but don't say, this is what's happening, what do I do now? So Dawn, I know we have 3 minutes left. I want to be fair to the other speakers. So Q&A.
Yeah,
And thank you so much for having me here and putting this together.
Thank you. Yeah, that was good. Someone responded, and I think it's from some of your earlier conversations. They were giving the attention, validation, love, nature, nurture, freedom, validation, understanding, friends, love, and more love. More love, that's the key right there.
That was from the exercise that we did. And that's what your kid needs. And if nothing came up from your kid, that's okay. Keep doing this exercise. And then whatever your kid says they need, you should do that if it comes from your heart, not from your head. Oh, I think my kid needs me. No. Heart. And they just might see, Mommy, show up as you.
Yep. And then Joanna responded, as a formerly alienated parent, I agree 100% with self-love, self-care, and trauma healing, psychoeducation during the alienation period.
Amazing
response. Thank you, Joanna.
Thank you.
And that is all the questions there. Anybody in the panelists? Let's open it up for the panelists now. Finishing up that. Okay. Those questions are out. Andrew, she called you out a couple times. Do you have anything to add?
Only compliments at this point. I've been a big fan of Ginger since I first caught wind of the Erasing Family documentary being in development. I've done everything I can to support her. And every now and then I pop into her community to do guest coaching. And the people that are there are such a power. They're the kind of community you want to cultivate. I think the scary thing for a lot of parents is when they're out in these Facebook communities that are kind of like the Wild West, where they just broadcast their trauma, broadcast their dirty laundry. And you compare that to community that Ginger has curated and kind of built within her coachees, I guess would be, I don't know if that's the right word. And you notice there's such a powerful difference, because those parents have much more tools to reunite versus the ones who are unfortunately engaging in practices that could damage their reuniting journey. So much love to Ginger, and powerful presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Yeah, it's so important going through this journey to celebrate the wins, no matter how small. So I got to the gym, that's a win. And in our community, people will put that in, like, oh, I got to the gym. Oh, I stopped drinking. Oh, I got a job. Oh, I helped the neighbor out. Or one woman, it was the hurricane. She bought the last rotisserie chicken at a Publix, and she was like, I saw a mom with 3 kids. I gave her my chicken. And we're like, that's a win, because you're being generous, right? And these things build up. And that's also if you're a parent who has some contact and your kid reads your text message or answers you back, celebrate that. The worst thing you can do is say, well, I still don't have 50-50. Like, I worked with a dad who was like, I have 47% custody time. I was like, you went from being completely alienated to 47%. He's like, well, 50% would be more fair. I'm like, celebrate the win, right?
Yep.
Yeah, very powerful that in the concept of energy and that positivity. I can see why your environment would be very helpful to parents. That was really powerful.
One other thing I'd like to mention too is I love the comment you made about parental alienation equals conditional love. And that is so true. That really rang true for me. So I liked how that was phrased, that it is conditional love. What we as children always need is that unconditional love.
Yeah. So and it's so much easier than these long academic definitions. of like, there's this 5-step process and these all things. Because I feel that there's so much time spent on diagnosis, and there could be a range of issues that cause parent-child contact problems. And that time should be spent on helping the family heal by teaching them how to communicate. Instead of being like, is this alienation or is this estrangement? Is this a grade 3 alienation? And I'm just like, this family needs help. And 2 years of people coming in to do assessments doesn't help. But someone else had a quick question. I know we're out of time.
No, I just want to say that what I did notice from your style, it's very effective because I see that you're no nonsense for action. You're like no talk, action. And that's the sense I got from your time here, and I really appreciate it. I'm excited to see the movie because I have not seen it yet. So congratulations in advance, and thank you for putting action to the diagnosis.
Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you for mentioning the film, because next is Ashlynn Lerner. She is joining us. She is one of the main characters in the film. So let me share. Oh, I almost hung up. Ooh, don't do that. Wrong button. Let me open this up and talk a little bit about Ashlynn. So, all right, can you guys see my screen?
Yes. Yeah.
All right. So this is such a beautiful story. I love watching Ashlynn and her family. So I kind of geek out about this a little bit. But Ashlynn is best known for being one of the protagonists in the powerful film Erasing Family, which chronicles her emotional journey to reunite with her father, Dizzy, after being her father's name is Dizzy. Let me pause and say that. After being alienated from him for over a decade. Through her resilience and determination, Ashlynn's story has inspired countless others affected by the complications of divorce and separation. I'm really excited to have her here. We're pressed for time, so I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to her so she can use this time to share with us all the beautiful things that she has to share today. Hi, Ashlynn.
Hi. Thank you so much.
Great to see you.
It's so good to see all of you guys. This is so heartwarming for me. I'm not a great public speaker, but we're gonna try it out. So I have with me our wonderful, amazing book that we've all put our blood, sweat, and tears into. And I wanted to read my poem that I did, and I also have a little something to say afterwards as well, a little speech I wrote up for you guys. So it's called The Fool's Journey to Enlightenment. And I wanted to start out with a quote that I used in the Erasing Family film, even though it's different now. Many years have passed and things have changed. But yeah, so I've never known a life where one parent wasn't missing. I heard all the horror stories, hate-filled remarks, children are always listening. A young girl some would call a daughter. No one blinks twice even though she's missing her father. Anger is misplaced because sadness had nowhere to go. At first I believed what I was told because my mother would know. When I was 10 years old, my mom pursued an adoption. Against my choices, my real father wasn't an option. My dad was erased, and I thought I'd never be the same. Hurt turns into anger, which then turns to blame. Through trial and error, my anger almost won, believing false truths like my father only wanted a son. My reality kicked in when I chose to think for myself. I discovered new truths. I stopped hanging the dream of my dad on the shelf. Sometimes there's two sides to what kids get to know. I would have missed out on a lot had I didn't decide to grow. When I turned 18, I went on a search for my dad through 2 states, not knowing what I could have had. I jumped on the chance for an opportunity. I wanted an explanation. I had expectations it would heal me. He was a gentle, kind, and loving man, and from what I heard growing up, my life felt like a scam. All these years I spent hating and hurting. It took years to trust anyone, and I'm still learning. I was alienated for over a decade of time. Not knowing my dad wanted to be there truly felt like a crime. I was robbed of missed chances and core memories, brainwashed to think a part of me was my own worst enemy. Years have passed, and my dad and I have traveled many lengths, having the hard conversations, understanding our boundaries and learning our strengths. Be the change you want to see in the world, my dad said. Remembering my reality is better than the long-lasting effects that are still in my head. Children are not pawns to broadcast your anger or your entitlement. Learn from my family's mistakes. This was the fool's journey to enlightenment. And after filming Erasing Family, I've reunited with my mother, and one of my siblings has actually reunited with my dad after over a decade. And I really liked this little last part. It was an incredibly long road, and I always said it could never come true, but the reality is you write your story, no one writes you.
Just love that. It's like comment, the quote of the year, that you write your own story, it doesn't write you. So beautifully, beautifully written. Thank you for sharing that with the book and being here. Yeah, so you said you might also have something else after your poem. That was her poem, by the way, that was in our book.
Yeah, I do. So I just wanted to, throw it out there in the open after yesterday's conference and today's conference. I have never been more grateful to walk this journey for the first time in my life with a tribe of human beings that all share a very unique and individual experience, but yet all very so much similar and so close to home. It's really incredible to be in a place in your life where you know you're in a place in your life where you know in your heart that you have become the adult that would have protected yourself as a child. Because now here we all are in unity, doing our part to protect the generations after us. What courageousness each and every single person here has to speak up. You're feeling very much silenced. When I was in my late 20s, I discovered that having an important family member erased from your life was a generational curse in my family. It was going on for about 4 generations on my mother's side, which is crazy, right? But it's wild what becomes normalized when it's all that you know. Healing is so complicated when your reality has been shifted the vast majority of your life. You can imagine my shock when I was told that my dad wanted nothing to do with me and that he was dangerous. And I was told that for the longest time. And then you fast forward to like a decade later, and this guy's baking me a cake in a woman's apron and dancing around to 80s music in the kitchen. The funny thing about the human experience is that we all look through a life through a certain lens, and regardless of what that looks like, it's just kind of hilarious to me that, my dad was this big, scary, dangerous person, but here he is dancing in the kitchen to 80s disco music and wearing a lady's apron. So scary. But I think the funny thing about the human experience is that we all look through life through a certain lens. And regardless of what that looks like, you will typically encounter people in your life that will challenge your thoughts and keep your heart open enough. You may be able to even have rediscoveries of who you are and what it is you choose to believe. I never imagined that my brother would come around. Seeing how much that I changed over the 8 years of no contact is actually what inspired them to reach out to my dad, because my dad was who came to mind when they asked me, how did you change so much over the years? Like, you're a completely different person. And my father would have never imagined that there would have been a day where I came home. Nonetheless, my brother. And so it was a decade without me. It was almost 2 decades without my brother. The long-term effects of this pain is very unique to each person who experiences it. However, we are no longer alone in that, and I'm grateful to see us be the change that we want to see in the world, creating a ripple effect of cycle breakers. That way, the next time someone says, oh, this is normal, it just runs in the family, we can be the person to say, this is where it runs out. We're not only the directors of our own story, we have become a unified voice, shaking the course of generational trauma. Children are not weapons. It is no longer nothing about us without us.
was such like a tug of war with whose side are you going to choose. I realized like it was just tearing me apart.
It was always, you're on my side or you're dead to me.
The first time my dad saw me, I was in my grandma's arms in a courtroom.
It really felt like she didn't want anything to do with me.
It's hard when you have to stop and think that your child wants nothing to do with you because of what they've been taught.
One parent gets to be a parent and the other gets to be, at best, a visitor, and at worst, completely erased. And a lot of it has to do with our judicial system.
What I remember about being in court was having to lie to the judge. Sorry.
It destroys lives, it bankrupts people every day, it tears children from their homes, and just so happens to be a $50 billion a year industry.
If you don't pay your child support, you're gonna go to jail.
Walter Scott decided to bolt from his car. Court documents show he owed more than $18,000 in child support payments.
These fathers are not deadbeat, they're dead broke.
Nothing I said mattered. None of the evidence I brought forward mattered. The judge wouldn't even look at it.
He's nothing like I was told he was.
If there's 22 million adults dealing with this, that's over 22 million children. And the mental health consequences are severe and long-lasting.
It's heartbreaking to me to see how many of you are dealing with this.
My dad was erased from my life.
It's happening all over the world. This isn't a father's rights issue. It's not a mother's rights issue. It's a human right issue.
My daughter here and I have been alienated from each other for the majority of her life. She called me and said, "Dad, it's time to move home," and she came home.
If the court worked in a way where there was 50-50 custody, I'd be happier. I wouldn't feel a void because I've never known a life where one parent wasn't missing.
A new bill would make default custody 50-50.
How come we don't have shared parenting in the law? It's called special interests.
We need more clarity in law to support what is best for children, shared parenting, and this helps move in that direction.
I want to show people that it can have a happy ending.
In about 10 minutes, we're going to leave for the courthouse so I can legally readopt my daughter.
That's beautiful.
Oh, we lose her again.
Oh, we lost her.
I love watching Ashlynn's story play out from the time of the film to watching her reuniting with her father and continuing that, and then reuniting with her mother and having siblings reunite with the father, and really watching a whole family heal has been just Ginger. While we're waiting for Ashlynn to hopefully be able to come back, as the director of Erasing Family, working directly with Ashlynn, can you kind of talk about that a little bit from your perspective?
Yeah. So when I met Ashlynn, she was a very different person. She and her dad were both smokers. She, wasn't living a very healthy lifestyle. And, you could kind of see the trauma on her face. So she has really bloomed, but also Dizzy, her dad, he led the way by healing, by going to therapy. And actually, he was one of the inspirations of the Revive method, because he was like, I was so angry, Ginger, when I made that movie. I was angry at my ex. I was angry at the system. I was angry at all these people, and I just had to let it go. And when he was able to do that, he was able to reunite with his other child, who in the film says on camera that they want nothing to do with him. Like, and that's the last scene in the film. She's like, it's just blood and DNA. You're just the sperm donor. I have another father, who's my stepfather who raised me. I have nothing to do with you. And now they're reunited. And we also do have a follow-up interview with Ashlynn and Dizzy 2 years after the film, where they talk about all the healing that they did. And that is on our YouTube channel, Erasing Family, where it's just like how they actually reunited. And one thing he also talks about is he would always message his other child. I'm saying his other child and they, because they prefer non-binary pronouns. But always with these pleasant messages, but never pushing. And so many parents, and Andrew talked about this about dating. They'll continue to say, should we do can we grab coffee? Can we do this? Can we do this? I'm like, if your child says they don't want to hear from you, asking them to do stuff is weird. It's like if you like, there's still a guy who I met like 6 years ago. I moved away from where we met, and he still messages me every 6 months, like asking me out. It's like, dude, I'm never gonna go out with you. Right. and but this is like so Ashlyn's back. Yeah. So I'm just saying, like, how let's give the floor to Ashlyn, how your dad would message your sibling, but in a way that was just encouraging and not pushing for a meeting. But I'm jumping ahead. So now that you're back, let's go to you.
That's okay. That's very accurate. Yeah, he just kept sending that energy out, that love out, even if it felt like for years it was falling on deaf ears, or, regardless of how hurt he was feeling or his own personal individual experience in it. I think that his energy did change a lot, especially after making the film, which I thought was really interesting, kind of like what Ginger was saying earlier about, energy doesn't lie. And regardless of what you believe in, people make their own personal shifts within themselves. And it does create a wave that people pick up on, like my sibling had absolutely zero interest in my father for pretty much my entire life. And it wasn't until after the documentary, after my dad had processed all of his anger, his emotions, he got a little bit of therapy here and there just to kind of navigate it. It's like the shift just hit after that. It comes when you least expect it. And like I said, we never in a million years thought that we would all even be in the same room again. And, I've even reunited with my alienator, and we have a relationship on my boundaries, which kind of brought something up for me yesterday when we had a question where someone had asked, has anybody's alienator redeemed themselves? My birth mother I loved how Dawn worded it. She said, redeem isn't exactly the word necessarily, but you find acceptance in what you're comfortable with, and you love people on your boundaries, and you make it work for you. I always viewed both my parents as two different parts of my identity, so it felt like a really big chunk of me was missing when, first I was alienated from him, and then when I moved to California from Washington, because that's where my mom was, then I had alienated my mom out entirely because I was so angry. And it took 8 years for me to, do a lot of self-reflection and understand that I could be a whole person, have both of my parents, if I just took the time and hopefully, had the same mutual respect and boundaries with my mother to develop a relationship on everybody's boundaries.
It's a beautiful story. The screen just flipped and you flipped again. Can you turn it sideways? There we go. Yeah.
Yay.
I don't know. Sometimes when the Zoom flips, things go back to where they were, but your story has just been beautiful to watch. So I encourage anybody that has not seen the film to go and watch this film and share it. It's a tool for us to use. So, I want to thank Ashlynn for being vulnerable, and your father too, because this was a lot for both of you to express and show and just kind of open up your lives to a camera crew, and Ginger following you around and just being kind of in your face quite a bit. And so very
it was terrifying.
Yeah, but thank you.
So scary, but it was that, what it was is that I had woken up in the middle of the night, and this is when I first moved from California, and I had so much stuff that I hadn't unpacked or processed, and I was finally in an environment where I could do that. And when I did it, I posted this thing on the Father's Rights movement back in like 2016. That's actually how I got in touch with Ginger, because it went viral, which was terrifying. And amazing all at the same time, because we had people messaging us saying some brutally honest, vulnerable things about, wow, you guys just gave us a completely, entirely different perspective that this can happen. So yeah, that was actually the biggest reason that we leaped onto it, because we both had this long talk that we know that in that trying time where we were struggling and we couldn't be in each other's lives, we needed someone like us. So that was actually the reason we jumped for the film, and it turned out incredible, and Ginger was so amazing, and I couldn't be more grateful.
We're all so grateful to be able to have this film to use, to watch, to I wasn't able to be in the film, but I identify with so much of it. So it's a way for people to really connect to their inner child and their own trauma, and being able to see how someone else has gone through this, and then to watch you be reunited with your father on the film is just amazing. So, and in fact, part of my mission to reverse my my adoption is still inspired by you guys. So
oh, that means a lot to me. Thank you. I'm so glad.
Yes. Ginger, did you have something? Oh, I thought you waved your hand. Okay. So yeah, I think that's it is definitely something that I think about in the back of my mind. If they can do it, I can do it. My father's not with me anymore, so it's gonna be a little bit more of a challenge, but if you don't know me already, I will defy a hurricane to put on a conference. So I will find a way to adoption one way or the other.
That doesn't describe Thriver. I don't know what does.
Yeah, a room full.
Ashlynn, I just want to say that was a beautiful poem, and your story is encouraging to me. I'm not ready to be part of my alienator's life right now, but there's hope down the road, right? Nobody knows what can happen. And I'm also trying to figure out how to reverse my own adoption as well.
Oh my gosh.
Because that was taken from me, and I want to have my real birth certificate with my real parents on it. And when I was at Service BC the other day, there was a lady that was there helping me. She said, "We got to order your birth certificate." And I'm like, "Okay, but this is not really my birth certificate. It's a fraud." And she's like, "Oh yeah, well, this happened to me, and then my dad died, and I wasn't able to get it done reversed and all." So it is out there. There are so many people that I was like, right there, we had such a good connection that I want to go in there and just hang out once in a while and say, "Hi, how you doing?" But people are now becoming more aware, and it's exciting. It's painful, but it's exciting. And I remember watching you too, and I thought, wow, like I want that, and I have that now finally. So it's good. It's to see this progress. I love it, and I love the fact that you guys, you're so young, right? The early intervention, like all that, that's what's needed. So thank you for inspiring me and Ginger for making.
Yeah, I really think that the potential of what we can create by reversing some of these adoptions and setting some of the records straight, I think is going to be very profound. But like you in our stories, we just keep finding out more and more how many of us have the same similar stories, the same events, or vice versa. Like there's so many interconnections between all of us where we can relate to each other in so many ways. So I think it's amazing. And with my reversal, the challenge is with my dad not being here, the courts have to decide whether or not to vacate. So what I did is I didn't even realize that I had a different birth certificate, because I was only given my original birth certificate. I never knew I had a legitimate birth certificate with a different name on it until I called and asked for a new certified copy in 2021, I think. Wasn't that long ago. And I asked the person at Vital Statistics, I need a copy of my birth certificate. And she's like, "This is not you." And I'm like, "Excuse me?" And she's like, "This is not you." And I was instantly angry. I'm like, damn it, one more person tell me I'm not who I think I am. I'm going to freaking lose my, you know what? I was very that really triggered me. I'm like, how dare someone say that's not who I am? Someone from
Well,
Vital.
it's dehumanizing.
Yeah. So when I got a copy of it, because she's like, you were adopted. And I'm like, oh, so that there is an adoption record? Because I've asked and asked and asked for a copy of this adoption record that I've only heard about and have never been given. So I finally had to figure out, okay, where did the adoption happen? So I went from all the states and the cities that we lived in, because I've lived in, God, I mean, way too many houses, and don't know which town. Sometimes we moved across the street, sometimes we moved across the country. It's just crazy. So I had to go figure out where was the adoption. So I found out where it was, and then I requested the records. And when I got them, that's when I realized this is all based on lies. None of this is true. The dates are wrong. So I'm going to use that information to petition the court to vacate the order, is what I'm going to try and do. So I have to do it a little bit different because I don't have a living parent in the other one. I mean, I could sue and try and go that route, but that's a lot of energy. And so I would petition the court to vacate first. And so, yeah, that's the mission. If I can do that, then that will open up precedent for all children in the future to be able to say, I want to know who my biological family is, regardless of what the court says. The court might put on a piece of paper that this is, because my birth certificate, I made them put my dad's name on it, but at the bottom it says who my stepfather is, that he is the legal custodial parent or whatever. And that makes me even angrier.
Like, I made sure that when I asked for my birth certificate, that my parents were not on there because it's not the right one.
Well,
like the adoption, right? Yeah.
But they put a note at the bottom. And actually she felt, so, you know, I think I touched her heart, and that's why she did it. And she's like, that's the best I can do. His name still has to be on the birth certificate. So she put my dad in the fields up above, but at the bottom it still says who the legal parent is. And that's what I want removed. I need that off.
I also found out that they don't have to have any information on the stepfather, because I'm like, I don't know. I don't remember where he was born. I don't know any, you know, don't remember. I didn't know much of his history in the first place.
His name is not on
and
any.
They're like, well, she's like, that's okay, as long as his name is there. I'm like, yeah,
yep.
Awful.
And in my situation, they also waived the mandatory investigation that they were supposed to conduct to locate the biological parent. And since there was a ready, willing, and able step-parent in the room, they decided to go ahead and waive that. And based off of the inaccurate information on the affidavit. So because he was there, they just said, okay, why not? Not realizing that the damage that they caused me and caused my dad, because they terminated his parental rights without even contacting him or trying to contact him. I could have been reunited at the age of 8 instead of 48.
And see, it's like, where is the consideration for the best interest of the child in that, you know?
Yeah, and I can definitely argue this was not the best interest. Definitely was not the best interest for me, but that's a definitely valid point, Ashlynn, that who determines what's the best interest? Because I agree with what the courts determine are the best interest, because most of them don't have lived experience. They have no idea what's in our best interest. So I know
it's sad. So many, I mean, like all of us, for example, I mean, in one way or another have been dragged through the mud in that regard.
Right. Yeah. Definitely, where we're not given a voice, we are just a piece of furniture or a pawn on the chessboard or collateral damages, or we have a lot of different terms, but nowhere do we hear the word individual human being with the individual relationship. So the child's relationship is separate from the parent's marriage. And that's, I think, missed. We do, and here's my thing. My mom nobody ever owned my life. Yeah, they gave birth to me. I was created from them, but I've always been the owner of my life. Always. From the second I took that breath, I owned my life. Nobody else owns it. Nobody else gets to dictate what happens to it, at least not in a free country in the industrial world. So what I think what parents do is they think it's up to them to determine, decide, dictate, and change trajectories. And the difference that's changes us too much. So was it up to my mom to determine who my father should be? Maybe she made a mistake and it should have been him instead. I've heard her say that. And that wasn't her decision. It's not her decision who my father is. The decision was made before I took that first breath. So I own my parents, both of them, my biological parents. So I think that's something that parents and courts and everybody needs to understand. It is not up to you to tell a child who or what they are, because that's already been laid out in the DNA. Now you can guide and you can try to influence and raise a child that will be a good citizen in the community. But it is not up to the parents to say, well, I'm just going to replace this because I don't like that anymore.
Yeah.
I felt that with my whole chest, man. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think even coming from a parent, we're supposed to love our kids regardless. Every child needs love. There's no exception to it. Every child needs love. And it's sickening that you have some parents that they decide ego, power, and finances come before their children, or you have courts and professionals thinking they know more about what's best for the child, except for what's best for the child, which is love. So all around, we're failing our children, and that's why it's so important in this conference that we have the lived experience. We have the times we were alone and crying, not understanding why we couldn't love and be loved by both our parents. We know what that felt like, but we still survived, and now we have all thrived through. All of us have a story to say. It's not perfect, but we're here and we're fighting for us all. So I don't know how much to say, but love, love, love. Let's go.
More love. So when we have parents that split and then they remarry, that means I should have twice the amount of love, twice the amount that I had when it was just them. That doesn't mean that this new couple can erase this person because now they're taking over. That's not how this works. You don't get to just step in and remove or replace somebody. So we need more love. And if I had a step parent who was loving, that also allowed me to see my real parent, I would have had more love. There was no reason for me not to have more love, because that's really what I missed out on, is more love.
What we lose is we lose community, we lose our tribe, we lose a bunch of people that can be okay. It doesn't have to be this devastation of divorce. It can be, wow, now I have more people that love me that I can love, or whatever, more people to ask for help with. That's what a community is. And we've been so isolated as alienated children, but also societal. We're just kicked around, and when you've been a ward of the court, it never goes away. It seems like it's just always there haunting you, because now you can't get the help you need, especially not in Canada. At least that's what I'm finding.
Yeah.
So yeah.
There's a image out there, and I know most of us have seen it, I'm pretty sure. It's got the child standing in the middle, and then it's got mom and dad on either side, and then it's got stepmom, stepdad on the other side, and they're all wearing a shirt that says this. And I absolutely love that, because it shows that they're all there for the child, and the child is centered. that it's everything centers around the child, and that's really a perfect scenario where the children have love coming from both directions, and nobody's been taken away, nobody's been removed. They have access to more extended family now, even more extended family. So that can't be all bad. Anybody else have any? Oh, Jeannie,
just a quick comment to Ashlynn. Thank you so much for sharing and for being vulnerable and doing the film, but for the journey that you have done. We truly respect so much your challenges that you are in and overcome. I had seen a particular Facebook and little image, I guess a quick video, and it was of a wedding, and it was just a few moments where the father, you thought it was the father walking down the aisle with the bride, and he stops and he walks all the way up to the front while the bride is standing there. He got the stepfather who was there and brought him back to walk her down together. Now, in my mind, that, that gesture alone, that acceptance, that blended understanding. So, he said, I was not always there, but I know, someone else was able to not fill my shoes completely, but to be there with her. So that, to me, if we can all get to that point, right? I mean, we understand marriages, some of them, and life is what it is, but to have that blended, rather than the alienation and the unrest, but it's that unconditional love.
Yeah, definitely.
That was beautiful. I saw that one too. That one teared me up.
Yeah, right.
Beautiful.
It just reminds me, of what we're doing, what we're speaking of, what is lacking, and where we want to go. Sometimes you have to have that vision. Well, what is it? It's the beautiful vision, the vision of Dawn reuniting with her father, and who else, the poem and everything, that the video clip, and each one of you, just to get to that point of at least some type of closure and happiness. And as Dawn talked about earlier, the legacy.
Definitely.
Truly. I'm gonna cry.
Well, what I want to do real quick, because we're still talking about the film, is I'm going to share my screen again, because those that are watching, I want them to realize that they can. This is accredited. This whole conference has been accredited by the Florida Bar for 15 CLEs, which is continuing learning or legal education. And 7 of those 15 count towards their mental health requirements. So literally this one conference wraps up your half of your entire year requirements of CLEs. Now, you may not be a Florida Bar licensed attorney, but if you might be in a different state, or you might be in a different industry, you might be in a different country. If you're whatever one of those entities allows you to self-report because you attended a conference like this, then you can also claim the 15. The criteria is to attend both days and to also watch the Erasing Family film. So the Erasing Family film is available on YouTube and also on Tubi, I believe. And if you go to erasingfamily.org, you'll see the Erasing Family there as well, the documentary. So you can watch it from any one of those locations. Lots more information about the film on the website as well. There's been some red table talk with Ashlynn and Ginger attending and speaking to Jada Pinkett Smith and Willa Smith and Grammy, and that was and actually your dad was on there too, right, Ashlynn?
And my birth mom.
And your birth, that's right. Yep. I think she was there virtually. She couldn't attend in person.
Yeah.
So the lots of information that you can see there on the website there.
There's a silent epidemic destroying families. It's called parental alienation. When a parent viciously turns their child against the other parent, over 22 million families are going through it, including ours. This is really personal to us. I'm an erased aunt. You're an erased cousin. Whoa. For the first time, legendary music producer Teddy Riley reveals why he hasn't seen his son in 3 years.
What's going on with your son now?
Listen. She didn't speak to her father for nearly a decade.
It was always, he's not good for you, he's selfish, he abandoned you.
Now they're at the table.
She sent a message that said, "You're nothing to me, don't ever reach out to me."
Together.
What made you give away your parental rights?
I abandoned my kids.
We actually have your ex-wife who's agreed to join our conversation.
I need to step out. I can't.
A wake-up call for parents everywhere.
Learn from our mistakes.